been saying soon, soon, soon on the 3,000 gallon. You're probably wondering, does this guy even know what the word soon means? It's been a long time. You know, how soon is soon? Well, how soon is now. Okay, where to start with the big update on the 3,000 gallon. So we have done a lot of things. We've changed lighting, we've changed plants, we've augmented filtration, we've added some more fish, and unfortunately we had one fish loss. So it is mostly good and a little bit of bad and with a little bit of hiccups along the way, but it is overall much improved. Let's go ahead and just jump in. So let's go ahead and start with the plants. So before, you recall, we had lots of big wisteria in here, and now we have lots of big sword plants. So that one there is just a little shy of 3 feet tall. It's pretty close to the surface there. And we have a lot of different types. We have Amazons and we have Rubens, just a bunch of different sword plants. And when they came in, they were all very, very, very small. So I decided to go ahead and crank up the lighting from the normal 8 hours a day to 12 hours a day. And it had a positive effect on plant growth. I was also dosing fertilizer for the plants. So everything grew a lot. The bad part was I sort of got caught up in other projects, and when it was time to dial the light back down a little bit, I didn't do it quick enough, and I definitely built up some algae. And the other thing is one of my timers actually broke, the light timer. It wasn't turning off, so I came down in the morning and the lights were on, and they're not supposed to be on first thing in the morning. So I figured something was up because there was just crazy amounts of algae starting to grow everywhere. Kind of reminded me of like when the tank was first set up. I remember that first video, episode 6, you know, on the sand, you had the sort of cyano slimy kind of algae down there from the excess nutrients back then. But now it's been that lighting thing. So actually, it was way worse than it is right now. It's been two and a half, 3 weeks maybe since I discovered the problem and fixed the problem. And as you can see, it's starting to burn off. It used to be coated everywhere, and it's breaking up now. You can see the sand again, and it's coming off the leaves. And in fact, I don't know if it comes across in the video, but there's little bits of, you know, kind of, I don't know, like broke apart or sloughed off kind of algae in the water column. So it is definitely going the right way as far as getting fixed. And also I've started dosing the fertilizer again for the tank. So that's helping the plants just, you know, beat out the algae. And the fact that we have the filtration system now running full tilt, running, gosh, almost between 3 and 4 times stronger than it was before. So that's all come together. So that's it for the plants, and it's one of the downs. When I say there's ups and downs, so one of the downs was the timer breaking and me leaving the light cycle too high for too long. So if you notice with the lights, there should be a little bit a wider light, a little more shimmer than before, because we've upgraded to Kessel Tuna Suns. I think they're X's, X model, Tuna Sun X, something like that. And with just a few of the other floodlights in the tank, so we now have quite a bit more lighting. It's a lot brighter. I'm going to interject in here a little bit of video from when I had one side upgraded, the other side not upgraded, so you'll really be able to see in that little section of video the difference in the tank in terms of the lighting. Oh, and the other thing, one quick before I forget, with the plants, if you look on the bottom now, we have this dwarf sage grass growing everywhere, and I mean everywhere. And the funny thing about that all started from 6 pieces, 6 little pieces I took out of the 125 Asian stream tank, and I placed them in here, and it has just taken off and run throughout the whole tank. So definitely pretty cool, and nice to be able to take a free plant, free to me at that point, and propagate it out and get some bang for the buck. Another thing you can see is I had to add in gravel, rock here in the front, because I have so much water flow coming across and coming down, which is important because I need the water flow to keep bringing, you know, everything back towards, you know, the back of the tank and moving down for the drains. but it was blowing my sand back. So what I've done is I've just put in the rock here, and I need to add a little more here and some on the other side. And so that breaks the water speed down before it gets to the sand. And as well as all the plants, you know, the grass growing into the sand, that's really starting to firm that up and, you know, eat up nutrients and all that good stuff. So in addition, obviously, to the, you know, changing the lighting and or changing the light cycle and fertilizing the plants again, which will beat back the algae, I am looking to get snails for this aquarium. I'd like to get a real healthy colony of snails going. I think that would be very helpful just for munching on their decaying plant material. There's so many plants in here at any given time. You're always going to have some leaves that are, you know, dead and decaying, so you need somebody to munch those guys up. Now to fish stock. So you notice a lot of the, you know, the old usual suspects. Big boy wild Oscar, the parrotfish, the Zabrina back there, peacock bass, Zabrina over here, peacock bass. But one of these that's I think going to be a future downer is if you look at my electric blue Jack Dempsey, he is looking old, because he is old. He is roughly between 11 and 12 years old, and he's looking it. I mean, nobody picks on him, and he still eats strong and everything like that, but he doesn't swim around as much as he used to. He's out right now because he thinks he's going to get fed. He spends a lot of time just sort of hanging back in the plants back there, and I just feel that he's just very old. He's kind of on his last legs, and one day, unfortunately, I'm going to come down and he will have passed. But that's a real, I mean, it's great that he's lived this long, but I'm definitely, it's a future negative thing coming, because I don't think he has that much longer to live. And speaking of that, there is one noticeably absent fish in the aquarium, and that is the lenticulata bass. I'm sorry, lenticulata pike. I do not know what happened. When he was a baby, when I first got him, he had some sort of problem like swim bladder, and he couldn't maintain, you know, his position in the water, and he floated up, and I basically, this kind of happened in the evening, and I was trying to figure out what to do first thing in the morning to try to treat him. So I kind of just had him in a container to help, like a floating container, just to help take some pressure off of him, keep the other fish off of him. And then sometime the other night, he hopped out of that, he's back in the tank. I couldn't corral him again, but he came all the way back, and he grew up to be the giant lenticulata pike that we saw. Ended up being 17 inches, unfortunately. After he passed and I pulled him out, I measured him, and so he lived for a few years and got big and everything like that. And then one day I just came down and I didn't see him, because normally he's always right there front and center. And so I was looking around, and he was floating upside down at the top of the aquarium, and no visible signs of injury. He didn't, you know, nobody bothered him. He was a monster, and he was actually a gentle giant. You know, he was big and tough, and if any of the other fish tried him, you know, he let them have it. But he generally left everybody alone. He was, you know, a very strong eater, strong swimmer. Looked great. I mean, just looked amazing. So that's really frustrating when something like that happens. So I don't know exactly what caused it. If it was some sort of, if it feeds into that original scenario when he was young and he had that problem, I'm not sure. But unfortunately, I have lost him. You also, on a positive side, you'll see some new additions in the fish stock. You see there's 2 more peacock bass, Orinoco peacock bass in here, and there's 3 Oscars. So we have this guy here, he's sold as a lemon Oscar, but they always kind of end up just being this sort of albino red kind of thing, sort of an orangey red, and 2 more wild Oscars. So, but what has transpired is that the big wild Oscar and the albino tiger Oscar, if I can see it back there, they have a nest back there. They've been breeding for a long time, back, you know, just on and off. Just been kind of a terror, pushing a lot of sand around, you know, being ornery with the other Oscars, you know, but not bothering anybody else. And then the reason you see this guy back over here, that's another male, and the big guy gives him, not all the time, but some days he just gives him the business. and he'll end up sitting back there in the bushes for a little while. Then he'll come back out and everything will be fine for a couple weeks, and then the big male over here will get all worked up again, and it'll happen again. So that's been going on for a while. It's definitely pretty frustrating, but that's kind of the business with big cichlids. Not much you can do about it. But there is still 5 really, really important fish to come to this tank that are still in the grow out. They weren't quite ready. The peacock bass grew faster, so they got moved over. But the other guys are not ready, and I know there's some fish in there that I can't wait to see in here, and I know a lot of you guys can't either. So I'm not going to tip that yet. I think this update's not all going to fit in a single video, which makes sense. It's the 3,000 gallon. It's hard to even get it in frame all the time. You know, it's 21.5 feet long. It's just a beast, right? So it makes sense that, you know, there's going to be a second update to this big update, because you just can't fit it all into one video. All right, so we've talked about the new fish and the plant changes. We've talked about the lighting and the mishaps. Let's talk about the filtration. So how are we able to increase the filtration by, let's just call it 4x. It's a little under 4x, but about 4x. Well, we did it with new pumps, new plumbing, new drains, and new returns. So if you look at the back there, we have 3 with 2, you know, outlets for returns now. So here, in the middle, and then over here. And then powering those returns is a pump that is considerably stronger than the one I had. So we basically went from turning this thing over 1.5 times from 4,500 gallons an hour to the new pump, which is doing around 13,000 gallons per hour. So it is definitely a big improvement. And it's only been, at the time of this video recording, it's only had this new flow for three weeks, 3.5, something like that. And it's made a big difference already. So I am really looking forward to more time, just time to go by for the tank to stabilize. You know, me monkeying with the lights, me stopping the fertilization, me actually turning off the filtration for a while and just running some sponge filters while I was building the new filtration. You know, a lot of messing with the tank. So it's now getting back to being dialing itself back in. We've seen it before. We saw it with, you know, the 150 Reef Cube and the 125 Asian Stream, where they for various reasons they've got out of balance, and then we had to bring them back into balance. So we're doing the same thing here, and I think it'll be a good thing too, is what we'll do, another month, 6 weeks at the most, I think. Those other grow outs will be ready to come in here, and then, you know, we'll see what does it look like then. You know, what does the algae situation look like then? What do the plants look like? You know, what does everything look like then? So we'll get that update. We'll see that you can control things, you know, using natural techniques. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do big water changes. I'm not going to use chemicals. You know, I'm just going to do what I've been doing, which is adjusting the filtration, adjusting the water flow, adjusting the lighting cycle, maintaining proper fertilization for the plants to allow them to outcompete the algae. We're just going to keep doing all those things. And as always, the tank isn't crazily stocked, so it's we're not going to overpower anything with tons of livestock. Oh, speaking of livestock, if you see there in the plant is actually a Lima shovelnose catfish. There's actually 2 of them in here now, and they're doing fine, but they're definitely a little they're a little on the small side. I mean, even though this guy doesn't bother them, really nobody bothers them, but maybe they just don't feel that comfortable being that size. I probably should have waited a little longer before I put them in, but I was hoping putting them in here would help them grow faster. So they do fine. You know, they eat. They've been in here now for a month or more, and nobody bothers them. So in that sense, it's good. But they do spend a lot of time sort of chilling in the plants, and then later at night they're out swimming around, so cleaning up. So that's something to look forward to when those guys get bigger and more, you know, obvious, and they're swimming around with all these guys. Those guys combined with the 5 fish that are in the grow out, I really think it's going to make the entire tank just pop quite a bit more. All right, let's jump into the filtration while my assistant inspects the right side of the tank, and we'll go take a look at the filtration. Okay, to show you what's going on with the filtration, I'm going to need a little bit of a prop and take you around back real quick on the business side of the aquarium. As remember, we had the single drain before. We've added another one of these to the far opposite side of the aquarium, and then we've actually plumbed in 2 new drains here on the back right. So we're now running 8 inches of drain. And yes, if you're thinking, why didn't I just do it this way from the scratch from the beginning, you would be right. That is what I should have done. But I did not, so here we are. But as you can see, there's a whole heck of a lot more water flowing through than there used to be. And if you see there, that plumbing on the back, you can see all the new return plumbing. Instead of just the single one, now we have, you know, all that going on. So quite a bit of changes on the water flow side of the house. And when I said I needed a prop, well, what I want to show you is how I was able to do a bulkhead, that's them in the back there, through a 4-inch thick wall. And what I did is I took 2 bulkheads and PVC pipe, and the second bulkhead I cut the flange off. So I cut this piece off, and I glued that on there so that when I, you know, screw the piece on, there'd be something to screw into. So now I basically essentially just elongated this piece, you know, as if it was all the way there, as like one big long deep bulkhead, so that I was able to get it into the aquarium there. So, and when I said that I had turned off the filtration and was using the sponge filters for a little bit, that's why, because I had to drain the water, you know, way down to work and everything like that. You had to drill, you know, a larger hole in the back and then a smaller hole in the front. A larger hole in the back to get it thin enough in the wood for this to have something, this flange to have something to go up against, and then a smaller hole, you know, for the pipe to come through. And then by doing that, that enabled us to get those 2 big drains. And then the 4th drain that I was talking about is over here. It was another over-the-top drain that drains all the way back down. So massively increased water flow than what we had before. Big improvement. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where I wanted to sort of take a little video each day and then sort of do a montage of the progress, but just in life, it just gets hard to do. These clowns, they think it's feeding time. Yeah, it is, you have to take my word for it. Right now it is improving, and when you see the next video when we add the other fish in here, you'll see that it is going to look a lot better. But all in all, very happy with the improvement. I'm very happy with the lighting changes. I'm very happy with the plants growing in. When I first took out the wisteria and put in these tiny little swords, and there was no dwarf sage or anything like that, all I had was some small anubias in the back, which are now gigantic. They're 2 feet tall, you know. It just did not look the same compared to the wisteria. It didn't have that jungle look that it does, you know, when all the plants are grown in. But on the flip side, the wisteria was killing me because it's kind of like duckweed in the sense that it's always breaking off little, you know, plants, and they're floating to the surface, and the entire surface gets covered in these little plants, and you're constantly fishing them out, kind of like duckweed. So, you know, as much as I love that plant, I also wasn't sad to see it go in a tank like this. And, you know, quote unquote, we're more Amazonian now with these swords than we were before anyway. So all improvements, the water flow and the filtration, obviously a big improvement, and really just the loss of lenticulata pike just being the one big, just that killed me. But I will spill the beans. One of those grow outs is another lenticulata pike because I love that fish, and I had to get another one. I don't want this tank to not have that fish in it. It just really fits this tank. So, okay. Well, I think that is bringing everybody up to date with the 3,000 gallon. If you didn't see it, I did put out a little, I consider kind of a funny video, a fun video, whatever. It's a feeding video for these guys, just, you know, kind of music tied up to the me throwing food in for these guys and them all hitting it, top water, you know, doing what these guys do. So kind of a fun video, but definitely not the normal vlog style video. So where do we go from here? Okay, next steps for the 3,000 gallon, like I said, is just to let the system equalize. I'll keep dosing the fertilizer for the plants appropriately. The light cycles have been fixed, the timers have been fixed, and we'll just let this beast grow in and get settled in. And then after that, I am power feeding the grow outs, and the next key thing is to get the grow outs into the 3,000 gallons so we can finally get a proper fish stock in here and get everything lined up. Let's get the plants looking great, let's get the fish stock looking great, let's have the filtration running top notch. Just get it all dialed in at one time, and then we'll do another update on the tank, and hopefully it'll be nothing but good improvements. Now, in the meantime, we know this around Aquarium Domain this autumn is going to be a big freshwater expansion, a whole new room coming up. So I know what most of those tanks are going to, actually I think I know all the tanks. So it's going to be 2 new big tanks, and then we're going to change up 2 of the existing tanks. Let me show you what we're talking about. Okay, so the Amazonian Jungle Aquarium, it will be no more. Everything from here is going to be going into the larger of the new tanks that I'm building. And it's no longer going to be an Amazonian jungle, it's going to be Amazonian islands. It's going to be a larger tank in every dimension than what you see right here. So big things coming for that tank. That's going to free this tank up here, the 220, which is going to get a all new sump. It's going to be completely revamped in there, and the name for that, for the new tank here, is going to be Flooded Forest. So that's something to look forward to. The Asian Stream Tank, Jungle Asian Stream Tank, it also is moving into the new room. So everything from here is going into the new fish room expansion. And guess what? It's staying Asian Jungle Stream Tank. I love this tank. It's just going to be a bigger version of this tank, but it's so much bigger, it's going to allow me to keep some Asian species that really I can't fit in this aquarium. So maybe something like clown loaches or rainbow fish. Who knows? We'll see. But a lot of cool things coming to that. And this tank, I do have an idea for where it's going. I'm going to not tell you what it is because I don't have a name for it anyways. So we're going to have the 2 new tanks are going to be Amazonian Islands and Asian Jungle Stream, kind of new and improved, but we'll just call it Asian Jungle Stream. This tank is going to get redone with, once I finalize the idea, I'll let you know. And then of course, Flooded Forest over there with the 220. All right, thanks for checking out the video. Lots of things going on. We had the freshwater expansion coming, essentially 4 new tanks, 2 new and 2 repurposed. Lots of work still going 3,000 gallon. I think I could probably say that in every video. There's always something going 3,000 gallon. And of course, we have the whole saltwater side of the house, other than Predator Bay behind me, that's continuing to grow out and working on getting corals and macroalgae and things like that going in there. So those are coming along as well. Everything going good there. Just takes a little time to let them mature. But we'll have videos coming up on those. But definitely the big things to be looking for are these 2 new big freshwater builds and the next update on the 3,000 gallon. Thanks for watching, guys.